Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Samantha Farley, and today I want to talk about the honeymoon phase of diabetes. What is the honeymoon phase? What does that mean? When does it go away? What happens after it goes away? All that jazz. So stay tuned to learn more about the honeymoon phase. So what is the honeymoon phase? Well, that term is used with newly diabetics. After they are diagnosed, it's a period of time of when your pancreas actually starts to work again. What? I know, it's kind of confusing. But once someone goes into DKA, or once someone finds out that they are now a diabetic and their pancreas has stopped working, a lot of times it's like the last effort that your pancreas is giving you to work. So it's almost like a spurt of energy that your pancreas is giving you to work again. And the period of time that the honeymoon phase exists is different for every single person. Well, to give you an example, because I know this can be confusing and it took me a really long time to figure out what the honeymoon phase actually meant, I went into DKA and the doctors told me that your pancreas will probably still work a little bit. The time that it will work a little bit, we don't really know, but it's going to continue to work, and then eventually it will officially give up. It will officially stop working. But this is different for every person. This could last a month. This could last a year. It really just depends on your own pancreas and your own situation of diabetes. And I wanted to talk about this today because I actually believe my pancreas is starting to stop working. I'm starting to get out of that honeymoon phase, which means my pancreas is officially stopping to work. I know this because I have to take more insulin lately than I ever have had before. When I was first diagnosed, after I met with my endocrinologist, we came up on the conclusion to take about 1 unit of insulin for 30 carbs. If you've been a diabetic for a while, you're probably shocked because that's a very little amount of insulin to take for the amount of carbs. So I could eat an entire yogurt bowl in the morning for breakfast with blueberries, strawberries, granola, and peanut butter, and I would only have to take 1 unit of insulin. Honestly, for the past year, the most I ever took at one time was about 2.5 units of insulin, and that was for a dinner, where I was having pasta. If you're a new diabetic like me, you might be in the same scenario. You might not. You might be taking more insulin, fast-acting insulin than I was when I first started. Part of me believes it's also because I've always been an exerciser. I've ran my whole life. I've worked out my whole life. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the amount of insulin that I have to take, but I don't take very much until recently. 1 unit of insulin for breakfast just doesn't work for me anymore. I have to take 1.5 to 2 units of insulin now for the same amount of carbs. So if I'm eating 30 grams of carbs, now I have to take 1.5 to 2, kind of just depending on the scenario. And I've realized also at night, I've had way more high blood sugars than I've ever had before. It was never something I had to worry about before, and now I do have to worry about it. A lot of times at night, if I only take 2 units for dinner, it will skyrocket. It will hit 190 or 200. So I've been playing around with my numbers to figure out what works best for insulin to carb ratio, and I'm still trying to figure that out because my body is changing. I thought it may have been insulin sensitivity, but now it's been about 2-3 weeks that this has been changing, and so it's time for me to figure out my new insulin to carb ratio. So this happens to every single diabetic. The time that it happens is different for everyone, which is hard for doctors to say, hey, your honeymoon phase will last 6 months, because it might not. It might last a year like me, or it might only last a month. And so it's something you have to watch carefully because it kind of just comes out of nowhere. Your blood sugars just start getting higher. And that is what has happened to me. a couple months ago, I had more low blood sugars than I ever had high. I would randomly hit maybe a 180 in my blood sugars, and that was very rare. I hit more lows during the honeymoon phase. Now I hit way more highs than I hit lows. Even right now, I'm at 151 after my yogurt bowl this morning, and I took 2 units of insulin this morning. So it's something that you have to think about when you're a new diabetic, is the honeymoon phase and how to handle it. I've heard other diabetics say when you get out of the honeymoon phase and you're in real diabetic life, it's actually way harder to manage your blood sugars than when you're in honeymoon phase. And I remember this was probably 6 months ago, I asked my diabetes educator if that actually is true and if it's just way easier for me being in the honeymoon phase. And I remember she said, no, it's actually not going to get harder. You just need to adjust your insulin levels to match the new carb ratio that you're experiencing, and it should be fine. I actually believe that my diabetes educator is wrong, and it is way harder to manage your blood sugars after the honeymoon phase. Mind you, I am still trying to figure out my new insulin to carb ratio. However, I've realized every little thing seems to skyrocket my blood sugar all of a sudden, and I don't really know why that's happening. That never happened before. I would take my insulin, it would stay pretty consistent, my blood sugars would stay pretty consistent, and that was that. Now it's all over the place. And the things that I used to eat before, I eat now, and my blood sugars go way up. So I do think that it's harder to manage. I don't necessarily think my diabetes educator was wrong. She's right in the fact that I need to figure out my new carb to insulin ratio now that I'm getting out of the honeymoon phase. But it is harder to manage. I mean, I used to eat Siete tortilla chips with my meals, and nothing would ever happen when I ate those. Now, if I eat it with a meal, my blood sugars go way up. It's just one of those things that you have to figure out, and no day is the same in diabetes, which is terrible. But hopefully, as I go out of the honeymoon phase, I will learn a little bit better as to how much insulin I need to take per amount of carbs. If you are new to diabetes and have more questions about the honeymoon phase, what it means, how it works, why it's even there, feel free to comment below and ask your questions. I will answer them to my best ability. Hopefully the other people watching can also give some insights and advice to the honeymoon phase, what happens when you get out of it. If you have any other tips and tricks for the new people that are being diagnosed with diabetes, please comment them below. If you have any answers to my questions that I said in this video, please put them below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and all of my other videos. Be sure to subscribe for more diabetic videos, and please join my email list. Diabetes sucks and nobody should do it alone. So that is where I put more information in detail about my day in the life of type 1 diabetes. I really can't wait to see you guys in the next video and meet you all personally. I'll see you then.